So just, I'm just going to catch people up. So we've done some videos on this Ford Roadster, and originally, I guess the client asked JB to create the convertible body, the fiberglass body, but they need a top for it. And so JB, of course, has John here, who's with me, figure out how to make a custom top when you're starting with nothing, aren't you?
Started from scratch.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the process when you're starting from scratch? Most people, when they're building a project, they're going to buy the top, right? They're not making a top. So what's involved?
It's hard to buy a top for the Roadster because there's in the past there were so many different manufacturers. Nowadays there almost aren't any. So everything that you see online, you're taking a chance. Could work, might not work, might have to modify it in one way or another. And depending who you get to do it, they might be able to do it, they can do it easily, or they can't do it. That's what I'm hearing through the grapevine. So I started out with, since I've done enough tops, I'm 47 years in the business, I kind of know what needs to be, take my measurements. This is a mock-up.
Okay.
It's basically so I don't have to go in and waste $100 a yard material.
Okay.
And so far with what I've got, I sewed up the centerpiece, the side pieces, and the rear curtain.
Okay.
Brought it down, tailored it to the frame and the bows, took it back, sewed it together. Now I'm installing it, so to speak, halfway, just to make sure my dimensions, the fit is good, because I already know I can tell if there's little wrinkles or it's not fitting right in one area. I already know what I got to do to fix that. Right now I'm drilling the holes for the snap studs.
Okay. Right. Those.
And then,
looks like you've got some of them drilled already. We caught you right in the middle doing that.
yeah, I'm almost done drilling the holes.
Okay.
And I'll use those holes and put some snaps like every other one or something right now in the mocked up top, just to make sure everything's good.
Yep.
It looks good and I'm happy. I'll take all that back off, take the top off. Now I'll go back. I have a pattern to lay out on the actual convertible top material. There's no waste.
Right.
No
using very inexpensive material to make it into a pattern.
Right.
And then you've got a perfect pattern for this exact car.
We're going to save this pattern because JB thinks we might make some more in the future. So I'll put this pattern aside, mark it American Fiberglass 35 Roadster, tuck it up in the shelving.
Yep. And then next time someone needs one.
Next time I'll do the same process though. I'll sew it back together, make sure it fits, because who knows what frame we get. If JB makes one or somebody else supplies a frame, it could be different, but at least it's a start.
Okay.
There's a centerpiece in the center, one side, two sides.
Okay, right.
And then this is called the rear curtain because I'll put a window. You can see a window kind of black lined out.
Yep.
I'm actually going to widen the window just a little bit and narrow it just a little bit.
Okay.
Because that was just a test.
Sure. Okay.
And once I got it on here, I looked at it. I'm not happy. If I'm not happy, I don't expect my customer to be happy. So
right.
I'm going to widen it a little bit, narrow it.
Yeah.
And we're good. JB's already approved what I've shot at him.
Okay. And tell me about this header bow.
Header bow I started from scratch.
Okay.
They gave me one. I put it on. I didn't like it. It didn't fit right. I told JB I need to start from scratch. So I kind of used the original header bow they gave me as a go-by for angles, sanding and cutting and getting the right angles. And this is the aftermarket product. They basically took my wood bow that I made and made a mold of it. So this one here is fiberglass.
Okay.
And right now it's covered. It's covered with the same material that the convertible top backing on the material is.
Oh, I see. Okay.
To hide the fiberglass.
Sure.
And then I've got a light padding on the front, which I like to do. Just makes a finished top.
It comes across real well.
Yeah, it's just a light felt. It's actually a trunk lining material, but it's thin and pliable that it goes around corners and
Sure.
dips and all that good stuff. So it helps out. It really does help out. A lot of guys won't do that.
Yeah.
That's their mistake.
Yeah. It's a very easy step to add in to make it better.
15 minutes and a little bit of cost in the material, but the outcome is so much nicer.
Right on.
Just so much nicer.
Well, very good. Well, this is, it's great to catch you kind of in the middle of this process here. Well, we know you've been working on it. It'd be great to see this thing all finished up. So you just mock it up with just clamp it on, I guess.
Yeah, I just use some clamps to kind of help hold, since I don't really have a lot of employees or helpers.
Right. So you clamp the front, then you tighten it around the back, and do you do any attachments on the ribs on top? The bows?
Just back here, it's stapled on this one. That's a wood bow.
Okay.
This one doesn't.
Okay.
And I wish the angle of this one was a little flatter, because you can kind of see where that's going to be some pressure. I still don't know if I'm going to do anything with that.
Okay.
The material can handle some wear and tear. And of course, this car isn't going to be out there every day.
Yeah, the top's not going to go up and down every day.
Probably the top won't be up more than a month a year anyway.
That's right, yeah.
Well, depending where he resides.
Yeah.
I've done tops that I've never seen them up.
You know they're there, but that's it.
Especially if they live in Arizona.
Yeah, exactly.
I said, the back bowl we're just going to stain, since it's wood. I'm going to stain it probably a nice, maybe just even a clear stain, just to highlight the color, because the color's close to what the top material headliner is.
Okay.
And just leave it at that.
Yep.
And probably, with everything goes well, I'll come out Wednesday and install it. It'll be done.
Perfect. Well, John, thanks for taking a minute. I know you're busy. Thanks for taking a minute out of your time here, and we'll look forward to seeing this thing finished up. It's going to be good.
Okay.
Okay, John, let's pick this up from where we left off. You had some material you were using to make a pattern, and you were kind of drilling the snap holes in and making measurements and using some older material that still stretches, I guess, to use to make a pattern, and that's where we last saw you. So what's been happening since then?
Well, I have made the top. To me, was good. I did make some alterations, because once it was on, I made marks so that my seams lined up where I wanted them. You know, just that's something, because that mocked up top will now be a pattern for the future.
Okay.
It may not work on the next one, depending how the frame and the body, everything, you know, they're not always exactly the same, but we got to start.
Yep.
So took the mocked up top, cut it apart where I needed to, made, cut out the actual top material that was for this car, and made the top.
Okay.
It's installed on the front bow. I ended up taking the front mounts and took them back. I had to drill holes and tap them for our locks.
I see.
Which
These are where the roof latches to the windshield?
These here, right. That one on that side and this one here, we got butterfly cams, so to speak. They're 5/16, 18 thread.
Okay.
Drilled, tapped, put them back on. There's still going to be some modification, because once I do get the bow attached and it's on the car, and I put the weather strip on, we're going to have to probably make some adjustments.
Okay.
And I may need a longer bolt wing nut.
Right.
I do have some that I'll be able to cut down, but this locks it in place for right now.
Right.
Until we get to that point.
Okay.
So
you obviously want a good secure surface to work with now.
Well, it has to lock, otherwise if you're driving down the road, depending how fast you're going, this can pop up and
Sure.
fly back and
Right.
cause some damage, maybe hurt the driver or passenger.
Right.
We don't want that.
No.
So
Okay. So what are you going to do next?
I've got some straps here made in the same top material that attach to this back wood bow. Basically for dimension, because this is a floater right here. So if it didn't have nothing attached to it, and when I attach the top to it, it can create problems as far as moving around that it's not supposed to. This way, it's kind of locked. Once I attach the top to this bow, and then we put the front forward, when I bring the back down to snap it, it's tight all the way.
Got you.
These are just a snap stud that's universal. We do a lot of this in tonneau covers, convertible tops of this nature, boat stuff, and these are stainless.
Okay. So they're not going to rust.
All the hardware I use is stainless. I don't take chances on the cheap stuff. That's just my preference.
Right. It probably comes from experience.
Well, especially, I used to do a lot of boat stuff. And if you don't use stainless on the boats, you're in trouble.
Right.
This is my 47th year doing this. If it's not broken, don't fix it.
Right. What got you into it in the first place? You're a young guy, obviously. You still look like a young guy.
Youngster, wanted to do my own car. Already had body and paint experience because my family's in body and paint.
Okay.
And walking down the hall from the body and paint class, I popped my head in the upholstery class, saw that. I had a 64 back then. And I said, man, it would be nice to do my own car.
Oh.
So teacher said, we got space. I talked with my counselor, switched classes. A month after I was in the class, they got me with an on-the-job training program. Working for Fitwell seat covers back in the day. That big dog, Mr. Woofy. When I first started, my actual first take-home pay for the first full week I was in upholstery, $68.76. And I thought about it and I says, oh boy, is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? I was already on my own. I was sharing an apartment with a cousin of mine. So, of course, I had 2 jobs. And the old guys that I worked with, because right away I started thinking, yeah, this ain't going to be my career because I can't live off of that. You know, back then that
just wasn't enough money.
Wasn't enough money. So taking a second job, they says, you're only doing seat covers and just stocking and boxing and stuff like that. He goes, wait till you start doing carpets, vinyl tops, because it was commission back then. You basically got paid 20% of the job. I said, well, I'll finish the summer because, of course, I'm a young kid still, 17 years old. I says, I'll finish the summer and then go from there. Once summer ended, I got transferred to the downtown store because I was out in Sunny Slope first, which was a long drive back then. So I got to this downtown store, which was on 8th Street in Washington. I had learned carpets, door panels, vinyl tops. So I started making a little money, you know, and then, of course, still being fresh in the business, I didn't have the knowledge or really think about the possibilities beyond that. This was just an everyday upholstery shop. Jobs came in, they distributed them out. The guys did them. Like I say, you got paid 20% of the job. Well, I already knew about car shows and custom cars and all this and that. In fact, my uncle is a big part of why I do this today.
Okay, but he was big into it?
Well, he came out of the Marines and bought a custom van.
Oh yeah.
And asked me did I think I could do some stuff for him on his van, kind of change it up.
Yeah.
A little bit more custom, little nicer, because he had a custom paint job, but a pretty average interior.
Uh-huh.
So I said, yeah, what do you want? He didn't get too outrageous, but after doing it, I saw it and I was pretty proud, and he was happy.
Mm-hmm.
People were happy, you know, people that saw it were, wow, man, who did that? Oh, my nephew. You know, so it was, then I started thinking about it. You know what? I could do custom stuff, be in the shows, because back then there was a lot of locals that were in shows, I mean, left and right. Their name was everywhere. I took on a job.
About what was the year, about what time was this?
That was 76, 77.
Okay, yep.
So, guy confronted me. He had a 69 Grand Prix, wanted to do a custom interior. I don't know if I was barely maybe coming up to a year in the business.
Mm-hmm.
But word got out about me pretty quick, I thought, you know, considering I was a nobody.
Yeah.
And so we made a deal. He had a show in mind that was going to be at Estrella Park. It was more of a lowrider show, which I don't do a lot of that type of work now. But back then, to get my foot in the door, I says, okay, the deal was I would do the work. He bought all the materials. And if the interior won any kind of award, the award went to me. Lord and behold, the interior took first place.
No kidding. Wow, that's what an enhancement to your
And yeah, I was a proud peacock
situation.
after that.
Yep.
The sad part, he didn't win nothing for nothing else. Custom paint, custom body stuff, and this and that.
Yeah.
So he kept the trophy, didn't give it to me.
Oh my God.
So I was like, I was disappointed.
Yeah.
But people knew me already now,
Yeah.
and I knew I did it.
Right. Whether you had a trophy to show or not, you know.
Yeah. So, and I wasn't, even today, I tell people, magazines and awards aren't why I do this. I just love cars,
Right.
and I love working on cars.
Yeah, it's honestly a passion for you.
That's my passion.
Yep.
Pats on the back, praises, like JB, I get mad because JB talks pretty high about me, and I was like, come on, JB. I just like what I do. But
Well, obviously JB appreciates you, so it's just going to happen.
yeah, and I know that, and I respect it.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. I stay humble.
That's good.
So that was pretty much the takeoff of my career, because little by little I started doing more older cars, muscle cars, classics. Then I ran a couple of shops. Ended up sticking with it. Got my first place, notoriety. You can't buy that,
Right.
you know.
That's right.
Even though people said, oh, you got ripped off, you didn't make money, you didn't get paid for it. You know, winning it and knowing I won it and people knowing I won it, that was payment.
Yep.
And then that basically gave me the confidence to continue. People liked me, started using me. Next thing you know, I had 17 accounts.
Wow.
And I was just,
You're busy now. Yeah.
yeah, but I was young, so it was good. It was, you know, it helped me grow because I do work worldwide now. I got customer in 7, 8 different countries. So
Wow.
that came from doing the dealership work, because through the dealership work, I met Paul Newman. I met Jackie Gleason.
Wow.
Some of the old guys. You know, John Walsh was a customer of mine. Kevin Johnson, Diamondbacks, some of the old Diamondbacks, some of the newer Diamondbacks, and then, you know, it's just everybody's like, oh, did you get autographs? I don't bother those people. They
Right.
get hassled enough, and I just like, you know, I know them.
Yep.
I know them,
Right.
If you don't believe me, that's okay.
That's okay. But the bottom line is you continue to go forward with excellence, and that attracts the customers and the work. I
And the
guess.
clientele I have now, people would kill to have the clientele I have. I got the average Joe that works an 8 to 5 job, maybe makes a little above, minimum wage, and then I got millionaires that you look at them and you can't tell they're millionaires, but they are.
Yeah.
Some people would say, "Oh yeah, so you charge them more?" I said, every job is different. I charge accordingly.
Yeah.
I don't have to get rich.
Right.
I don't live on the side of a mountain. I don't drive a new
Goes back
vehicle
to the
every
fact it's your passion, right?
Yeah. I do fabrication. I do custom. I got fiberglass knowledge. I do woodworking. I mean, just all of that over the years has gone into what I do somewhere, somehow.
Yeah. It's created the whole package of what you do.
Yeah, I can, and I kind of advertise, especially the classics and the restorations, a one-stop shop, because I do mechanical, I do electrical.
Yeah.
They can bring the car to me, and I could build it from the ground up if I have to.
Yeah.
I had to do some notching, change it up, because again, they use somebody else's pattern, or
I see. Yeah.
Same with the front bow. This was the bow that I mocked up.
Okay.
This was the bow I made, which was totally different from the bow they gave me.
Okay.
They gave me another bow with this one, and it wasn't usable.
I see.
Not for this application anyway.
Right.
So I told JB, it was a decent start, pattern-wise, and getting the contour and everything. And then I made my own based on my knowledge from over the years, because I have made header bows for other vehicles.
Right.
So I made it. It fit. I liked it. This is going to work. And then they splashed it, made a mold so they can make fiberglass.
Okay. So
the
future customer can.
So I guess this one is promised to the guy that give these bows to JB.
Okay.
And the one going on this car is actually fiberglass.
Yep.
And now they have a mold for future
projects.
Yeah. If that's what they're going to do.
All right. So what happens next?
I will put these straps where they're supposed to be. It's already pre-cut, pre-marked. These are going to go on pretty much where they need to be to hold this.
Okay.
And I'll put. So I have a center marked here, which there's a center marked here.
I see.
And then double check where my seam falls, which is right on the money. So once I mark once I find the center, I'll put a couple staples in it.
Okay.
Basically to hold it.
Yep.
And then fall right where I want it. Now every top is different.
Yep.
Some guys say, well, why do you do that? New cars it's all basically the same. A new car, you don't really staple this. They'll have a loop underneath, and a rod goes through there, and you put screws through a metal bow into the rod, so that it basically is doing the same thing. It's attached here. Sometimes they have two more in front, depending on the car. I did a 35 Buick the end of last year.
Yep.
And we didn't have any forward bows. It got attached to the back bow, and on that car the rear is wood. It got attached there, and then we use what is called a hydem stapled over there, and it's a wire. It's got wire through it, and it folds over and finishes it off.
Interesting.
So the tops are all basically alike.
It seems like the principle's the same, but the details change, right?
Yeah. And some guys, if they don't do the older cars, they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
they get a top. It might come from a manufacturer. They might not make them, and they're like, they look at it like, oh boy, what do we do?
But this top is 100% fabricated by you from nothing but raw materials. Is that right?
Right, by the yard. I can't really say how many I've made. Maybe a couple hundred tops in my career. Roadsters. I did another one last year, 59 Porsche Speedster. It probably went longer than I wanted to, but I think it went about 3 months. But the guy, when he got done, was so happy.
That's what matters.
It's like, you know, now I get almost weekly work from him. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, right?
Good feeling to know I'm appreciated and wanted versus some of these guys, where's their next job coming from?
Right.
Because I do get calls, hey, you need help? Somebody that don't have work. And unfortunately, most of them I can't trust with the caliber of work that I do. They're not able. I don't like to.
You can't expand your business because you can't find someone, you can't duplicate yourself.
Right. It doesn't need a whole bunch of staples. A lot of these guys just like to staple away. You can kind of see where it's designed basically to follow the edge of the wood. You can actually feel the edge of the wood right here.
I see. Okay.
So my seam goes like that all the way around, basically. Once it's locked in the front, I can pull back, put the snaps, and then the final product is tight all the way.
From front to back, all the way around. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And because, of course, that's what we want.
You're right. All right, John, you made some progress since our last check-in with you. Where are you at in the process? What's left to do on this?
Now I'm putting the snaps. I started with the center.
Okay.
And for right now, I did every other one just to get it started as far as seeing how it was going to look.
Yep.
You know, getting it lined up. And as you can see, it's pretty flat in the window area.
Yeah.
It's not all wavy.
Yeah, it looks
it's going
good.
to come out good, especially once it gets a little bit of sun. It'll tighten up even more.
Uh-huh.
Well, then from then on, the top is a little bit on the tight side. And so what I did is I went every one after that, and you can see it pretty much flowed where I want. These wrinkles, I'll hit it with a steamer, relax the material, those will go away.
Okay.
And then still have the frame to lock, basically.
Okay.
And you can see where it's pretty straight and smooth.
Yeah,
here out. So, but I unlock it just to give me that little bit of extra.
Yeah, while you're working with it, right? Sure.
Yeah.
Now, is this technically, this is a canvas? Is it a certain type of canvas?
It's a convertible top canvas. It's called Stay Fast, which is mid-range material as far as price goes. It is a little bit pricier than, there's another canvas, offhand I can't think of the name, but it's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
I recommend not going that route, but people don't want to spend a lot of money. And you know what, that's okay because they may never put the top up.
Right.
That's the thing. Convertible people that have convertible top cars, I rarely see the tops up.
Right.
And then when they go to put the top up, they have issues, which I can give them all kinds of reasons and say, well, the tops weren't made to stay down and in the well for 6 months.
Yeah, you're basically training it to stay like that, right?
You know, in Arizona, you might use your top 2-3 months at the most.
Right.
And but they buy it because it's cool.
It does cool. Well, the color works well with the paint color, the color of the car.
Yeah, he picked a good color.
And it's going to look really great when you have it completely finished. Obviously, you're real close to the finish line here, which is really great. I hope we can get a picture of this car when it's completely finished because the whole chassis and powertrain is somewhere else. It's out of town somewhere. So
Yeah, I don't know where the car is going to
yeah, I don't
from
either.
here. So who knows who's finishing
But it's
it
going to
up.
have a nice body and a nice top. We know that.
Yeah.
Well, John, thanks for bringing us along and showing some of the tricks and just showing us kind of how it's done. It's pretty fascinating to see it go from nothing to a top, just right here before our eyes. It's really
Flat,
great.
straight material to
Yeah.
this. But
Well, that's great. Well, we'll look for you on the next project too.
all
Thanks
right.
a lot, John. Take
I'll
care.
be here.
Yeah. Okay. All right, the shop's a little bit noisy, but here we are. Just gonna let you know the top did get finished. It's looking fantastic. You look on the inside. Looks like it's gonna be a nice place to be with the top up even, but you know, a lot of these cars, the top's up rarely, but that's okay. It looks really great. So hats off to John for getting that done.